Yo, and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Ben. How you doing, boy?
Welcome. Thank you.
Finally, I was hoping one of the reps would have done that, Ben. It's good to see you again, buddy.
Nice to see you. What are we doing tonight?
I think we're talking about a very famous team. I mean, we might as well do the fan introduction if we're going to get into the meat of things. So why don't you kick things off by telling us your name, your Twitter handle, the club that you're representing, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do.
Okay, my name's Ben Garside. I'm a Man City fan. I follow Man City. Lucky enough to go and see them. I live in Penistone. I work in social care, mental health. Healthcare. What else do I do? I live in Penistone, South Yorkshire, which is near Barnsley. It's where Johnny Stones went to school.
You just had to bring up the cricket, didn't you, Ben?
Yes.
Funny enough, I went to a net session right before we recorded. On my way home, I'm obviously, wearing my West Indies jersey, as you can see on video. The listeners can't because this is all audio. And there was a lady that was stood next to me and one of my teammates. And she looks at me, she's like, "Are you Trinidadian? Because I can hear it in your accent." And then we basically we live in a very similar area. She lives right down the road. And we just talked about doubles and Trini food. And I've shared my culture with you, Ben, right? So you know how good it is, right? So yeah.
It's a small world, isn't it?
It really
big.
is.
It's full of people. Anyway.
Yeah, it really is. Otherwise, how are you enjoying your summer?
Very good. Currently it's diabolical on a fantasy front. I'm wound up with fantasists that you introduced me to. playing Baguette Olympics. Now, sadly, Theo has got work pressures.
Yeah.
So he's got his colleague in Ollie and Elliot to organise, but it's crazy. They are a crazy bunch of people.
Yeah.
And the obsessions with all kinds of competitions, climbing, rhythmic gymnastics, horse racing, and I'm rubbish at it. So hopefully they are schooling me, really schooling me.
I mean, for those who aren't aware, we're talking about basically our Dynasty League members, right? And we talked about how good of a group of lads you need for Dynasty football and how committed you are. But I think you hit the nail on the head. They are a very crazy bunch.
Yeah, but they're great fun. And what's nice is that they can give it out and they can take it back as well.
Exactly.
They do it kindly, but they can be pretty clear about where they stand. But yeah, thank you very much for introducing them to me. And again, part of why I like playing Trax, which we'll come on to, is because you meet such wonderful people, either virtually or in person.
And Ben, I'm sure they would share the same sentiment because on our Dynasty recording, for those listeners who haven't listened to it, you want to get involved in Dynasty football, go back to that episode. We speak very highly of you, Ben, because I think, and I wholeheartedly agree, any fantasy group or successful committed group needs a Ben as part of their group, because I don't know how to explain it. The dynamic that you add to the group, it's fantastic pressure for commissioners and great engagement for league members as well.
I suppose I enjoy playing, but I'm committed to playing. I really do like playing.
Yeah.
And if it's worthwhile doing, you get stuck in. To me, people that join leagues need to be committed to everybody else by just turning up. Life has got its own pressures.
Yes.
But just checking your lineup, just do it.
Yeah.
Don't, because it's get really sad towards the end of a term when you find that people aren't just checking. Yeah, life happens. But get somebody else to do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. All right, listeners, welcome back to another Inside Trax series. Just a quick breakdown of how this episode is going to go. We've got 3 main segments. So the first segment is a bit of a general discussion. We're going to talk about the impact of any new manager or ownership or maybe coaching changes. I mean, Pep's still there, right? But let's see what Ben has to give us any sort of inside intel. We're going to talk about the club's previous season's performance versus new season's expectations, old system versus new system. Basically, we're going to look back as far as the last summer window and talk about a couple of ins and outs. And then we're going to pick Ben's brain to find out about what the expected formation might be, because we know Pep is a bit of a madman. He's always concocting some new sort of system or formation, and then maybe get an idea of what the general starting 11 would look like. And then obviously we've got a fan track segment. We're going to ask Ben his first pick from Man City, his next 3 picks, which rounds he's taking them in, and at least one hidden gem. And obviously our new segment, which we're going to discuss a possible trap, or maybe a few of them. And then finally, we're going to pick Ben's brain in terms of all of his experience that he's had in the Fantrax community. Find out, how he trades draft picks, maybe waiver claims, how he spends his fab, and maybe some of his best and worst moments in his career thus far. All right, Ben, let's get started. So, another title, eh? First time without Ilkay Gundogan since 2015-2016 season. Kyle Walker became the captain. How did you feel about that handover?
I'm no fan of Kyle Walker. The less said about him, the better.
Why is that?
Why? Because this is a man who lives like a river rat. He's a river rat. I have no time for him. So I mean, that for people that don't know, out of work, he's a scoundrel.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's just me.
So I've heard like chats about, Kyle Walker's true ability, and that, his pace is really what kind of saves his career these days. He's not really that good of a footballer. Would you share that sentiment?
He's a very determined man, and he's very focused.
Yeah.
He can be very quick. But as we saw in the final of the European Cup, the sun is going down on him.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to go down with the ship. There was,
yeah.
I mean, certainly last season they wanted to keep him because he uses what's between his ears in terms of his footballing memory to be in the right position, and he's good at that. So he uses what he's got. I just don't like him. I mean, you'll have players like that who you just don't like, either because of their activities in work or out of work.
Yeah.
I just don't. So, and I mean, my advice to people is don't try and squeeze them on your roster.
Yeah.
If you don't like somebody, this is part of fun. You want to cheer on your team. Don't have somebody you don't like.
100%. Yeah.
So going from Gundogan, who's a super operator, very professional, to Walker. Well, we'll come on to it, but this empire I think is closing down for a while. It's coming to an end.
So I mean, let's talk about manager hierarchy, coaches, whatever. Is this really Pep's last season at Man City?
I think it is. He's saying it's not now. I think it is, but I think it is because of the charges. The charges are going to come to a head. The October is but they're private, so we won't know about it. But some words will come out, and words will already be coming out around that. And I think Pep buys from the top shelf. If whatever penalty City get, he'll be out of here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of opposing fans that are just hoping, waiting, praying for the 115 charges to finally hit, the downfall of, like you said, like an empire, right? I don't know what goes through your head when you see all this chatter, these charges. Like, as a fan, surely like it's a bit like gut wrenching, right?
Yeah, I suppose it hit me when they won the league, and all the general broadcasting, not the specialist broadcasting, general broadcasting was saying City won the league so many times. They've won the league on the trot. But this is tainted by the fact that the charges, and that was on BBC national TV.
Yeah.
And so my club is seen as a fraud club, a cheating club.
Yeah.
And I suppose I've known the club for many, many years. Somebody who died this year, Francis Lee, used to play well, this makes me very old. Used to play in the late 60s, early 70s, and
Yeah.
he went on to fund the club, and he went on. He made the money. He's made his money through toilet rolls. That's what he used to sell, and
Yeah.
he made his million for that. And the world has changed. Football clubs have got bigger,
Yeah.
but I suppose it's embarrassing for me. Also, the other thing which was embarrassing is when City a few months ago in a manoeuvre tried to say that they were being unfairly treated by the Premier League. It's absolutely nonsense. The Premier League it's not an entity. It's not the moon out there. It's made up of Premier League clubs. They made rules together, and there is very clear evidence to me that City have broken those rules.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead. Sorry.
For me, the Twitter handle I'd follow would be Magic Top Hat, who's an Arsenal fan, who points out. Do you want me to go into details about charges, or should I?
Yeah. Go for it. Go for it. We're here to talk everything City, right?
So, for those people who are not familiar, these are charges that City have for two specific areas have looked to damage the sporting integrity of the Premier League by planning on purpose to circumvent rules which the Premier League, which City being part of, had made. So this is all from about 2012-13, and this is about City writing down to board members about how to get extra money. So what they'll do is so it's written to board members saying, can the owner, we need more money off him. Can you put it through this sponsor because they were okay to us last time, and then the sponsor will pay. The second big charge is around managers, particularly, but back to the Mancini, being paid through third parties.
Right.
So this is about £60 million a year. Now, City have waited. This came out from Der Spiegel 5 years ago, but 5 years is significant because after 5 years, third parties, such as other teams, can't take a challenge. So City get found guilty.
Yeah.
Other teams can't challenge them and say, we want some money back.
Yeah.
Now, Magic Top Hat, his solution, well, he's an Arsenal fan, is that City should be not just docked points or relegated. They should be totally thrown out of the football system until the club is sold. Now, so who knows what's going to happen? But for me, bringing this back to the pod, for me, it's embarrassing as a fan because clearly City have done some wrong. As to how legally they're going to get out of it, is all these manoeuvrings and the delay being put in. We will see what the consequence is. But I think this is affecting the management stuff, the players, and will increasingly this year, and this is my caution to Fantrax fans, is be careful because who knows what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah. And I think the January window will be very interesting to see how people maneuver. I think already some of the agents are starting to make moves, and I think Pep's keeping things open. And I'd also see Kevin keeping things open at the moment. So I think it will have an effect upon. So that's the change, I would say, is the significant change, is that it's become real. Also, with the points coming off other teams last year for a different type of misdemeanor, have focused people's mind. But I think the big message to me is get it dealt with. It needs to be dealt with. And also that the Premier League doesn't come from outside nowhere. This is this is the teams coming together. And yes, other teams will have an investment in City getting punished. Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah. I don't see things being. If a conversation like this happens in a year's time, I don't think the situation will be the same.
Okay. Very interesting then. All right. Let's talk about the previous season performance on a brighter note. Let's say let's move away from all the 115 charges, because I mean, at the end of the day, you guys still play amazing football and you still win trophies, right? So I mean, just a bit of a quick recap as to how your season went last year. So off the back of being treble winners, you started the season unfortunately losing in the Community Shield, I think for the third consecutive year.
Yeah, that's traditional.
Yeah, yeah. And then you did, however, clinch your first ever UEFA Super Cup versus Sevilla on penalties. And then you went on to win the Club World Cup final versus Fluminense. I think you then became the first English club to hold 5 major domestic and international titles simultaneously. So no surprise, Pep is yet again breaking records with Manchester City. And then you go on to successfully defend your Premier League title for a 4th consecutive season, the first English club in history to do so. I mean, obviously it's fantastic, but the massive blemish for me was watching you lose the FA Cup final to your noisy neighbours, in a sense, Manchester United. So how would you sum up your feelings on how Pep did last season?
Very pleased to win the league because, as you pointed out, because I listened to last year's pod, you pointed out that is the focus for Pep.
Yeah.
To be able to say over 38 games, who's won. He's never been a fantastic cup. He is about grinding out relentless runs, particularly post-Christmas. And so that brings a lot of happiness. And it was well played. And they just ground Arsenal down. I think Arsenal, fantastic. On their day, City can easily be beaten. Again, most fans, part of being a fan is you can see the holes. And also, I've got a lot of respect for Ten Hag. I think if he's got the right players, he has got the right tactics. And it all clicked for United that day. And City were casual. They turned up. And that Pep was just either didn't care or wasn't interested, or the players didn't care or weren't interested, but they couldn't turn it round. City have often throughout the season relied upon turning things round in the second half. They're not the team like Arsenal that goes out and leads 2 or 3-0. No. They can also go behind and then come back. So yeah, I think overall a good season playing the football. And to come out with another trophy is great. It was not unpleasant to be beaten by another team in the FA Cup final, and for that other team to be United was again not great.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, going back to your league form, after I think you had your 3rd loss in the league on the 6th of December versus Aston Villa, you basically just either won or drew your games, right? I think it was 4 draws and everything else were wins. So it was really, the ball was in Arsenal's court. Like, you slip up, we will pass you, right? And you did. So, I mean, looking forward in terms of like season's prediction, and obviously this kind of will tie into the rest of our chat for this segment, but right off the bat, are you expecting yet another title?
No.
Why?
I think the charge, I mean, still, I see, maybe I view the charges too much, but I think they will affect the club.
Mentally.
They will destabilize the club. And also, I think Arsenal are just getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, they really are.
And again, we're recording this on Monday the 29th. They've bought their defender.
Caliafori, I think.
Yeah. So again, it's another piece in the ESR's gone, and I think that generation of players needs to leave Arsenal to allow the new boys to come through.
Yeah.
So I think Arsenal will get stronger, and I don't see City being as consistent because of things probably off the pitch.
I mean, you'd still at least hope for a Champions League finish as well, bro.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan. I would like to them to do as well as possible everywhere.
Yeah.
But you're asking me for a prediction, and my prediction is no.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk about some ins and outs. Let's look all the way back at last summer. One of the outs I want to talk about right off the bat, I mean, obviously we touched on Gundogan. He had an amazing Euros for Germany, I want to say. Definitely one of their top players outside of Musiala. Do you think you were able to I don't think you can replace Gundogan. I do believe that you guys tactically modified things. I mean, you saw Rodri play a bit further forward and stuff like that, but how did it feel without Gundogan this last season?
The team had lost its soul a bit in terms of like he was a way of pushing forward, and also he was a commander in terms of at times the team didn't have anybody that was commanding enough, and also as a special player to come out with special goals, he could do that. But there's no arguing with Mrs. Kugunda. She wanted out, and she got out. and again, it's great to. I always think in life, try and go out at the top.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he went
I mean,
out at the top.
Yeah, and happy wife, happy life. That's what Mom tells me, at least.
Well, well, I'm very pleased for your mum. She understands that.
All right. Let's talk about a name that has been on the tip of most managers' tongues this summer because he is a Man City player, but will he ever play for Man City again? Obviously, we're talking about João Cancelo.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point. Don't waste any time talking about that. He's not playing for City again. Forget it. Like we said last time, he's not liked by the fans by the way Man City fans can be very faithful towards Pep. If you threaten Pep, you threaten them. So they're really happy that Cancelo goes. City do really well. So Cancelo, you can take your attitude somewhere else.
Yeah. Riyad Mahrez left that window, but you got in another winger, Jeremy Doku. How would you compare the two?
Well, one's mainly left wing and one mainly right wing. So that would be one comparison. I mean, one's young and hungry, one wasn't young and hungry. I mean, so it's great. It's like reinventing. So I think it was a really good move. Also, Doku's raw. And Pep unusually allowed him to use that rawness at the start of the season. Yeah. And what we noticed was that gradually Pep turns everybody into a cog in the wheel, and they gradually and that damaged Doku's confidence as the season went on, because he said, "Don't do that. Don't go and shoot.
Yeah,
think about what you're doing. Hold back." And you could see the poor young man was confused about that. He wasn't sure whether to go forwards or whether to go sideways.
Right.
So that's again frustrating for Fantrax managers, because Fantrax managers, when Doku came in, first of all, was skeptical and said he won't get minutes. He got minutes, and then he was doing really well. And if you'd sold then, you'd have been very happy, because then he started deteriorating because there were loss of confidence, because obviously Pep had said, "Stop it. You play as part of a team." So how would I compare them? Doku's got promise about him. Mahrez delivered.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Last season, it just felt like Doku came across as like a bit of a one-trick horse or one-trick pony or whatever. And I guess you're alluding to his rawness. So then surely there are levels to his game. He can get better.
Yeah, I think we'll come on to Savinho later on. But I think that the big chat this summer is that City might be moving towards traditional wingers. Part of how Pep prides himself is he likes to think of the next revolution. Yeah. So that he went inverted wingers, the old right back to playing in the midfield, fluidity. There's a lot of chat talking about the fact he might have two traditional wingers, Doku being one of them, and Savinho or somebody else on the other side being the other one. Tricky players that put in crosses to a big forward. And guess what? We've got a big forward.
Yeah, he's pretty big. So, I mean, before we move on from Doku, do you think he's going to have a bit part role, like as a rotation piece? Like, you're not drafting him.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not drafting him as like your mid 2 or forward 2, depending on whatever you have him in your league, your notation. But I guess you would need him as like a, how would I say, a rotation piece for your roster. You need to have proper depth for your roster and then bring him on. Like, it's because it's always funny with Manchester City assets. You know how well they can perform for you on their day, but then on the days that they don't start, you have to expect that, and it could really undo your entire strategy.
If it wasn't a popular team or wasn't as successful, you'd stream all these players. Yeah, and that's the way I think about it. But because it's successful, you have to pick them up. The question is, when do you pick them up, and at what what I call opportunity cost. Who are you
Mm.
not picking up to pick Doku? And that's the calculation the manager needs to make, is before you pick up a City player, is who else could I get if I'm wanting more reliability? But as people point out, particularly Totti and Genie point out, this is playing to win. So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to take that calculated risk.
Yeah.
So Doku's a great person to have on your roster at the end of your draft. Question is, where do you take him? So if you're being offered him a mid 3, I'd say it's a great mid 3 to have.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
rely
Definitely.
upon him as your mid 1 and 2, no,
Yeah.
because
Agreed.
you can't do that because Pep's such an unpredictable creature.
Yeah. He really is. All right, let's talk about another in-out situation. Laporte leaving, but in comes Josko Gvardiol. Gvardiol ended the season so hot, right? He was basically playing like a winger, and I feel that has kind of influenced how Fantrax managers are drafting for next season. Now they're starting to look at him as a possible defender one. What are your thoughts about how he kind of ended the season? Because, I mean, you look the first half of the season, it's almost night and day, right? He looked like a bit of a lost puppy initially.
That wasn't my view on it, but I suppose I was watching
Okay, fair.
carefully for him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's been very professional, very focused,
Mm,
but towards the season he was allowed to let rip in terms of his forward running. So he's got that left back nailed. Laporte was just another centre back, a good centre back, but it was time for him to go. And so again, City let players go. They do that quite well.
yeah.
We'll come on to another player they let go, but
Yeah, of course, I'm saving that one.
But most of the time they do that pretty well, and they normally make good money out of it. But
Yeah.
Godwell is very adventurous and can play into the midfield. One thing to watch out for, though, is in the pre-season friendlies, which I've seen a couple of, he has been playing at centre back. You don't really want your left back playing at centre back.
Yeah.
Because he can.
So would you
can
be
do
cautious on him then as an asset?
that. I'd compare him with other defender ones available. He wouldn't be my top defender one.
Yeah. Yeah, same for me. All right, let's talk about a couple of your kids. Tommy Doyle stayed in the Premier League, was on loan at Wolves, and James McAtee also on loan at Sheffield United. How did you rate their performances at their respective clubs, and can we expect them to be playing in a Manchester City shirt next season?
To answer your second question, Doyle, no. McAtee, there's lots of chat about him staying. I think that's him. He's a moving part. It depends what else City get in the midfield. I thought McAtee was disappointing for Sheffield United in a struggling, but it's difficult to tell because they were in a struggling side. He very often didn't start. In terms of, so I'm not sure what that'll done for his confidence. In terms of Doyle, yeah, he did okay. Did okay for Leicester, but came back. I think he'll be sold.
Yeah, yeah.
McAtee might stay, but I'm not sure that he's Pep's first choice. The good thing about McAtee for Pep is he's a team player.
Yeah.
Pep, again, returning to a previous theme, Pep loves team players. He doesn't like individual skill. Back to the Doku. He doesn't like individual skill. He likes to see it occasionally, but you're here to work as part of the greater good. You're here to be a cog in the wheel. And McAtee might do a job. But he's not really going to be rosterable to yourselves if he stays at City.
Okay. There was another name that I just saw on a list, and I'm probably going to pick Jacob's brain about it, obviously, because he is a Southampton player now, but he was at City, Taylor Harwood-Bellis.
Fantastic player.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Do you think with the Fantrax roster?
It depends. You have to ask Jacob. Depends on I think he's a really good in real life player. As to whether he's rosterable depends upon whether you're going to invest in a big centre back who's very efficient, but in real life, but not dramatic. He's great for City because, again, City's skillful at doing this. He was, as soon as Southampton were successful in getting promotion, automatic 20 million, was it 20 million? That City got automatically knocked into us into it. And again, City will have a sell on in that as well. So yeah, it's a great player in real life, a captain at youth age for England.
Yeah.
So he's a great prospect in real life. Fantrax, unless you really rate, well, we'll see what Jacob says. Leave it to him.
Yeah. Second to last name in this window, Kovacic coming in from Chelsea. What did you think?
Really steady. Again, as we said previously, ultimate professional will just go and do a job. Not Fantrax relevant.
Yeah. Easy on the eye, not on Fantrax. All right, let's rip the band-aid off, Ben. Cole Palmer coming to Chelsea. Thank you so much. That's all I can say.
Fantastic. One of my highlights of last year was I went to watch a match with you, City versus Chelsea.
Yeah.
In a pub. Did we go for a curry at half time?
We went for a curry. We were late for the game, 2-1. We were like, we missed all the goals and it ended 4-4.
But I remember you and I cheering for Cole Palmer to score the goal. We both, because I love Cole Palmer. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like the swagger. The fact he's just like, you what? That's all that street attitude. Yeah. He just goes and plays. And he was what the chaos at Chelsea allowed him to play a huge part.
Yeah.
In the and he could do what he wanted to do across that midfield with Chelsea last season. He couldn't have done that at City.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think Pep regrets letting him go. I think.
You think so?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he does. But you get 40 million, and he needed to go because that's his future. Fantastic to see him bloom. So I'm really happy for that. My other favourite bit from that match is when they were late on the match, City were trying to sort out a free kick. And he goes and sneaks up and listens to what the City, and they don't hardly notice him because he's Cole Palmer. And then I think it's Bernardo clocks him and says, "Get out of here." He's cheeky. I love the player.
Yeah. I think it was actually Erling that grabbed him and pushed him away. I definitely remember that moment.
Erling was laughing.
Yeah, he was. And listen, Cole Palmer is part Caribbean. That has to be the reason, right?
Fantastic. No, great player. Great player.
Definitely. I mean, top. Obviously, this is not a Chelsea pod, but general draft. Where does Cole Palmer go for you?
He goes in the top 3.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
I'm not sure that he goes at 1 or 2. I think it's probably 3.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying that because again, it's not a Chelsea, but Chelsea pre-season, it looks chaotic.
Oh, it is a mess.
Now, as I've learned from Theo, Theo's taught us that chaos can actually help us in our Dynasty League. So it can be quite a productive thing. So I'd say Theo's law would be that you need a bit of chaos to actually to generate possibilities. New manager with a completely rotational team, but I would be careful about investing too much in other parts of Chelsea. I think Cole Palmer will survive. And again, looking at his figures, he didn't play that many games last season.
No.
He started off really slowly.
Yeah. I think he was 8 games short or something like that of everyone else.
So I wouldn't be worrying about Cole Palmer. I'd be worrying about the rest of the Chelsea set.
Yeah. Oh, thank God we're not going to spend the rest of the pod talking about Chelsea. I could cry for another 5 hours. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the winter window. There's 2 names that I do want to quickly touch on. What happened with Calvin Phillips and his career? He went out on loan to West Ham United and he was shambolic there. Why did Pep or Man City even take him in? Like, what happened there?
Because he's English.
Right.
In terms of quota, he was taken on because of quota. I think we discussed last time. I feel I don't think he's a fantastic player. He was picked up from Leeds. He had that perpetual look. really, I'm at City. I can't believe it. Look on his face.
Yeah.
Then there was all that stuff. He got fat shamed in
Right.
terms of, at the start of the season. I don't know if you remember that.
Mm.
And he never, and that I think Pep was culpable as part of that.
Mm.
In terms of saying he wasn't fit. Then he went to West Ham. And this poor fellow, his confidence must be low. He probably
Yeah.
just needs to. He probably just needs to go back to Leeds,
Yeah. Really does.
and that's probably what will happen.
Yeah. Probably. Claudio Echeverri, from River Plate. Is this a dynasty pick?
Dynasty pick.
Okay. We'll save
Don't
that
get
chat
excited
for
about it.
after the recording.
Normally.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go on to the current window then. There's a hot name that's popping up in all the mock drafts now, and I don't understand why. Savinho. What can you tell us about him?
We've got two names, Savio and Savinho. Do you remember when all the Brazilian players were called Inho?
Yeah.
Robinho.
Juninho.
People used to add this onto normal players
Yeah.
and non-Brazilian players.
Yeah.
That's actually happened with him, is that the official team thought he was called Savinho. And he's taken that on. He now wants to be called Savinho. His real name's Savio. A very tricky player on the right wing. He uses pace, goes very slow. Things, and could be, again, another person to cross into a big man.
Yeah.
The only thing which might hold him back is that traditionally, and this didn't happen with Doku, you have an apprenticeship with Pep where he very carefully integrates you.
Yeah.
Also reading into the detail, there are some questions about whether he's used to shooting on target.
Right.
He seems to be quite, and again, back in the Fantrax world, shots on targets, it's great having these wingers fiddling around, but you want them to shoot on target as well.
Yeah.
So that's a question. So we'll see. A flyer later on.
Yeah. Okay. Liam Delap is the final name I want to talk about. The only reason is because although he's left Manchester City, he's gone to another Premier League team, Ipswich Town. What can we expect? Cole Palmer 2.0?
I don't think we can. He's much more in the zone of being a forward rather than a playmaker. Also, he had a very interrupted last couple of seasons with lots of injuries. He played very well for City, but that was like, I would guess 3 seasons ago now.
Okay.
When he got cup matches and came on and did very well. So I think getting 20 million for him is great. He's still quite young.
Yeah.
But again, looking at the pre-season for Ipswich, he's a bit part player in Ipswich, and I do fear for Ipswich.
Okay. Now let's move on to the final part of the segment, expected formation starting 11. Or unless, I mean, this kind of ties together with the new system that we expect, right? So what do you think City are going to look like next season?
Pretty similar to this season when I say that, there's a goalkeeper. And again, I think Edison will go, Ortega will be there.
Okay.
Because again, Pep's giving the I don't want to stand in his way kind of thing. But if Pep really doesn't want somebody to go, like last season, he really didn't want Walker to go and Bernardo to go.
Yeah.
So I'd expect 4 across the back would be Gvardiol on the left-hand side, and then the rest, the 2 centre-backs, be a mixture of our usual suspects of Johnny Stones, Diaz, and Ake, and Akanji. And the right wing, on the right back, would be probably Walker.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be somebody else come in for Walker, but that's my own personal bias. And then across the midfield will be the usual selection of Rodri, Kovacic, and then it starts to get tricky as to who's playing further up. We haven't talked about Kevin. We haven't talked about Grealish. I don't think either of them are great picks. In Fantrax terms, because Grealish, who knows what's going on? Again, he might perform on one day, but who knows how regular he is? So I'm not sure as a draft pick. Kevin, lots of people talking about when he's playing consistently, he will score and make a great number of points. I'm not sure where Kevin's head's at, particularly again the stuff in the background. He's getting older. What was all that? What was it just? I don't believe in smoke without fire. What was
Yeah.
all that? What was all that stuff going on about the Kevin's going to Saudi?
Yeah.
And that so this is talking across the midfield, and then other players in the midfield. Bernardo, I think, will slip away at the end of this because City often do deals at the end of the window. I think he'll just
Yeah.
slip away. He's been wanting to go for years. Let the poor man go.
Yeah.
And then there's other bit parts. I think the big person for me will be Foden in the midfield.
Yeah.
I think he will get. I will think he will get a lot of minutes. People are
Yeah.
talking about regression. I don't think he will regress. I think this will be. Last season was his season. I think again it'll be this season. And then the right hand side will be a combination of maybe McAtee, maybe Bob. Lots of little pieces. I haven't talked about Alvarez. I think Alvarez again. There's lots of trouble happening at City. This is what I mean by the charges. Lots of people making manoeuvres, and you can hear the agents chatting in their ear. Apparently, he wants to move to his family want to move to warmer weather.
Yeah.
And he wants more regular minutes.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the deal with. Sadly, Manchester isn't warmer weather, and you're not going to get regular minutes unless Haaland gets injured.
Yeah.
So sadly, I think he's got City by the short and curlies because they haven't got many forwards.
Yeah.
If Haaland gets injured, they're playing false nines.
Yeah.
So I think this is just a manoeuvre to try and get more wages. I don't think he goes, but apparently Pep was really mashed off that he's playing at the Olympics rather than going on pre-season.
Yeah.
But Alvarez has got every. You talked about Pep having cups. He's got more cups than Pep.
Yeah, he does.
He's got World Cups. He's got Cup of America.
Yeah.
He's got
everything. 2 of them, I think, right?
so I think he's a great player, and he would be part of the 11, and I would be playing him regularly.
Okay,
I would find a space for him.
So it's interesting because it sounds like the 3 most trustworthy assets are Haaland, Foden, Vardiol.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And finally, we also did not touch or mention Matheus Nunes, a popular streamer last season, but also a popular disappointment in terms of streaming. What's going on with Matheus Nunes? Any sort of expectation about him?
He came in midfield with great. He'd come from he was a big player in a team which wasn't playing as well, or Wolves. And I think his time might yet to come. I'd just a waiting brief, but I wouldn't draft him.
Okay, cool.
He might be a streamable kind of person. But having said that, when you do stream him, he doesn't score that well. So
no, he does not.
So he's not really Fantrax relevant.
All right, cool. Shall we move on to our next segment then?
Yeah, come on.
All right, Ben, time for your first pick for Manchester City. Who you got?
Okay, it's got to be Haaland.
Which round? Obviously round 1, but which pick in the first round?
4.
Okay. First forward off the board, surely.
First forward off the board, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Easy. Next 3 picks?
Foden will probably be somewhere between 5 and 7. Depends on where people are up to with Kevin will be part of it. Where people are up to with Mo.
Yeah.
Mo Salah. Or an other. Sometimes the mocks are quite difficult to read. They seem to be quite clear about the first 4, but after the first 4, they're not sure. And people get a bit wobbly about Foden. I'm big on him, but people get quite wobbly. And they do point out that Kevin might outscore him. Kevin doesn't have an off when Kevin starts. Doesn't have an off day normally. But for me in real life, Kevin's slowing down, and I can see that. But that doesn't mean he's such a clever player. Is that going to damage his Fantrax score? So in real life, and maybe I'm tainted. I mean, you're a fan. Sometimes you'll see a player and they will actually score really well on Fantrax. But because you're a fan, you'll think they're not doing that well. But Kevin manages to score, but not play as well for me because he's just, age is catching up with him.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few mocks because I've got like that sort of awkward 5th, 6th pick, and it always falls to me. I've got the choice of KDB, Foden, Eze, Gordon, and there's so many different factors that are playing in my mind. It's like, okay, Pep roulette. If KDB stays, maybe that affects Foden's position within the team. Foden had a fairly mediocre Euros up until maybe the second to last, the semi-final game, let's call it, right? Where he had a couple of goal line clearances, hit the crossbar. Yeah, so that's why I'm like quite torn about the Foden pick. And I don't know. I'm very uncertain about it.
It's really a tolerance for risk.
Yes.
It's really a tolerance, and it is very difficult in that middle of the first round.
Yeah.
If you're low risk and it's a first pick, do you want to take high risk or don't you? If you're really worried, you just go Mo.
Yeah, I mean, if Mo's available, you go Mo. Yeah,
quite simple. Mo's there. Again, Eze, fantastic talisman. Is he going to stay there? Gordon. Everybody's really high on Gordon, but that's much too early to take Gordon, or is it? Because Gordon's got minutes nailed down. If that's really important to you, nail down minutes in a team that's not playing in Europe. Yeah, he might be the go-to. It depends what how you plan. I would say depends on who you think you're getting on the way back.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is like it depends on how you build the rest of your roster if you're taking Foden first pick.
So I'm a big fan of like trying to work out what your pairings might be for 1 and 2. This season, because of that solidity of the front three, it makes it easier to work out the last. My maths is struggling here. The last 9, you can actually work out the doubles. But I'm doing 2 co-managing leagues. One with my really good friend Valentino, and one with Draft Tash. It's Man City and Man United together. And that's the challenge: is working out which of the pairings do you think you want of rounds 1 and 2. But anyway, you're in a mock in about an hour or so's time, so I better.
We gotta move on this pod. Yeah. All right. So I mean, Foden is one of the 3 picks that we're talking about. Obviously, a first rounder as well, somewhere in the middle, maybe towards the late if you're lucky. Who are the other 2 picks that you're taking on that 3?
So I've taken Haaland, Foden. Kevin's got to be in there.
Okay.
You can't leave Kevin to somebody after 8, can you?
He has to go first round.
He has. But what I'm saying is he has to go first round before. I'd pick him before Odegaard. And I'm not high on him. I pick him because his upside
is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So those are 3, aren't they?
Yeah. Okay.
So
Haaland is your first one. You got Foden and KDB. So give me one more.
Well, then there's a big drop towards the left back.
Yeah.
And I'd hope I could get the left back. I would be wanting him in the 4th.
Yeah, that seems a bit early for me still. I'm hoping maybe the 5th or the 6th if he falls there, but at the same time, I'm not going to be upset if I don't get him.
You'll pay a Man City premium, which is I think is good, and he's got scope for getting better.
Yeah,
and also the change in the rule about City often let 1 goal in.
Yeah, exactly. Just the 1. So, I mean, it might be perfect for City defenders this season.
Yeah. Anyway, those are the 4.
All right. Have you got a hidden gem up your sleeve?
Well, for me, I think Covidal would be the hidden gem because people don't often, because I do think he's got that scope to go into midfield. So I think he's got. What you're looking at hidden gems, you want people that can improve on what they've done already, and I think he can.
Okay. And what about a trap asset from City?
Well, Rico Lewis. Everybody loves Rico Lewis. He's a fantastic player at doing what his job in real life. As a cog in the wheel in a small space, he's marvellous. He's rubbish when it comes to Fantrax scoring.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, and then of course, any defender not called Gravidor.
yeah. Okay, excellent. Do you want to talk about any other City assets that we haven't already mentioned, or shall we move on to the final segment?
We haven't talked about Bob at all. I think Bob's
Yeah,
a great player.
yeah,
I hope that he goes on loan. He
yeah,
probably needs to go on loan to get regular minutes.
yeah,
I fear that he might not go on loan and not get regular minutes, but he has been playing really well
yeah.
in pre-season. I think he's played 2 matches, 1 goal, 3 assists.
Mm.
Again, he's someone who, in terms of Fantrax terms, great playmaker, doesn't shoot. He's not greedy enough. He needs to learn greediness for us to like him in Fantrax. But I hope he goes on loan. I was excited about him maybe going to somewhere like Newcastle, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Would you say managers should draft Oscar Bob as like a 15, 16 pick, or you wouldn't bother?
Oh, when it comes to 15, 16, definitely. I think 15, 16. That's you've done your work.
Yeah,
It's good. It's good times.
yeah, yeah. Very good point.
It's where I drafted Cole Palmer last year.
There you go.
Because at that stage, he didn't. He was in the very similar position to Bob. He
Yeah.
didn't have many minutes. Wasn't going to be part of the 11. Play for the upside.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, with him getting all these minutes, this game time in preseason, maybe right before the move, he's just being played in the league, right? And maybe he might be like a hot pick for a couple of game weeks. Maybe you sell high, you get away with a bit of crime and make some fab off of that. I don't know.
We've seen lots of preseasons before. He could do,
Yeah.
he could do fantastic
Yeah.
in the Community Shield, and
Yeah.
we don't see him again.
Yeah.
And again, so many players, like for instance Kevin, he's not going on preseason. Why
Yeah.
is he?
Sure.
So there's a whole many different moving parts that are not there.
Mm.
It's Haaland and 10 assorted others really.
It's interesting. Alvarez was not mentioned in this discussion at all. It's crazy.
Alvarez is again. There's so much uncertainty about Alvarez.
Yeah.
It's difficult to draft Alvarez. I think last year we were suggesting him as a late good pick, and he played really well. He scores really well because Haaland doesn't peak well.
Yeah.
Again, certainly, if you find Alvarez is still there in your 13 round 13, grab him. But will he be? I don't know.
No,
people
way.
go, but again, it's a high risk strategy. But Haaland becomes injured, and suddenly everybody's wanting Alvarez.
Yeah. Very good point. All right, let's move on to our final segment, which is the advice segment. All right, Ben, in your years and years of playing Fantrax, Draft, Toga, whatever it may be, do you have any experience with trading draft picks?
Yes, I wouldn't do it myself. My maths isn't up to it. I mean, again, it's trying to, how can I put it? It's trying to mug somebody off. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I don't need that kind of action. However, having watched it many a time, the person that wants to trade draft picks normally doesn't do one trade. They don't do 2 trades. They normally do 3 trades.
Yeah.
To try and balance the books, because that's the way it works mathematically.
Yeah.
And you want to try and get in on that 3rd trade, and they're getting really desperate because they need to do that to complete the books, so it all looks flat, and they've gained they can concrete their advantage. So I've done very well. I think I did well in our Dynasty League, where somebody was actually looking at trading draft picks, and then and you just catch them at the end of that trail when they're coming towards the end, and they're like becoming more and more generous. So that's happened to me in annual leagues as well. So I don't understand them, as your Nottingham Forest man said. I don't understand them. It's beyond my headspace. I don't need that kind of action at the start of August. But if an offer comes to me which is really generous, I'll take it.
Okay. All right. Waiver / FA claims. How do you do them? Do you look at form? Do you look at fixtures? Do you look at a bit of both? What's your strategy there?
Form every time. I'm not a fantastic drafter.
Hmm.
I am a really good free agent claimer.
Yeah, I remember from our dynasty, you grabbed Chris Wood,
Yeah.
timely pickup.
So my view is that there are a few and
Yeah,
a couple of handfuls of players who are supreme. The
yeah,
rest of the players have purple spots and then it
mm,
goes away. You need to catch the player just as they're about to go into that spot and get rid of them just before they're going to go out of it.
yeah,
And so it's just watching and watching. And I'm not a stats man, I'm a vibes man. It's
yeah,
about looking at confidence. It's
yeah,
about looking at, I mean, occasionally I'll look at XG and XA
yeah,
because it's about where are people putting themselves in the right position? Are they
yeah,
unlucky not to get those points? So I like watching games for that purpose. And I like watching, again, I love player ratings
yeah,
and seeing what I like to read what fans say about players.
yeah,
And they'll often say X was really unlucky today. He needs more minutes and he'll come good. So it's very much it's about form for me, and
yeah,
just trying to grab people, and then looking at not just every game week on its own, but looking at blocks of 3 or 4
mm,
and planning for 3 or 4 game weeks.
mm,
Is this person useful for me over the next 3 or 4 weeks? Some people run a very tight roster where they drop loads and loads of people. I
yeah,
tend to maybe have 2 or 3 movable slots,
mm,
um, because I like to see what some of the trends. Again, it's the pattern. I think it's about players' confidence and are they doing well. I like to just grab that while I can, and then pass them on before they lose that.
okay, great. So looking back at like the Man City assets that we discussed early on in the season, are there any names in particular that you would suggest buying low or selling high?
No, I thought about this question. Doesn't really work for Man City because they've always got a Man City premium one.
Yeah, yeah,
So again, you talked. I was listening to your Nottingham Forest man today, and he was saying Chris Wood. Chris Wood's a classic type. It's like he plays well, then you get rid of
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
But
That's true.
City doesn't work there because they still play for City, so they're always going to.
Yeah.
So no, it's not going to work.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk a bit about Fab. How do you typically budget across your season? Do you just splurge on one shiny new toy, or do you spread it across the season?
You know me very well. I don't splurge on toys. I can be a
Not
bit.
at all.
I,
Yeah,
I like to keep hold of because you never know when you might need it.
yeah,
Particularly, I'm influenced by playoffs. Now, playoffs
mm,
officially happen the last few weeks of the season, but there's a build up to the playoffs
yeah,
where you can see what's going to happen and you prepare yourself. So it's like I like to win the claims a week in the week, and if just putting a couple of fab on just grabs you that claim, it's
mm.
worthwhile. That's how I spend my fab. Shiny toys is not for me.
All right. Next up, best and worst trades. Let's talk about maybe last season. Did you do any?
Oh, I did a bunch of trades. I achieved something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I joined a Genie experimental league.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to win it, and part of that, I did lots of trades with Genie, which I'd never done before because I always got duff deals off him. I managed to
Yeah.
get lots of good deals. We were both when there's win-win situations where I can. So that's why I would like to see deals. When I do deals, is like, look, I can see you're short of a forward and I'm short of a midfielder. That's the best deal for me, where you can actually assist each other and move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
100%. Yeah.
this whole mentality of like I've got one over him doesn't work for me because
Yeah.
it just doesn't work. Because yeah, I see it coming, frankly.
All right. And finally, what are some lessons learned from your previous seasons as a Fantrax manager? Advice that you can share with both new and old managers in our Fantrax community.
Form. You've got to watch for form over fixtures. Confident players score well on Fantrax, whether they're losing or winning.
Mm.
I do believe that. Have players that you enjoy on your roster. It's very simple.
Yeah.
I know it's a big one for Ryan as well. But just enjoy your players. want to be shouting for someone you don't want to win or don't like.
Yeah.
Also, I love co-managing. It's something I've really got into.
Yeah.
Because you learn a lot, and you have to. This, as Valentino says to me, working together means we make less mistakes. And in the end, Fantrax is about making less mistakes.
Yeah.
The other thing is, final thing is, when the game's gone, forget about it. At the end of the game week, it's gone. Some of our colleagues moan and groan about how unfair the weekend was to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get on with it.
Thank you. I'm so happy that that was your final note, because yeah, I mean, I talk to Robbie about it all the time. People in our community take this game way too seriously. Like, there are bigger things in life that should be upsetting your soul, not a silly little game.
The thing that put it into perspective for me was, don't know if you know, Totti's been quiet but very busy.
Yeah.
Did you see what he spent his summertime doing? Taking one of his mates, who'd been hospitalized.
Beautiful story.
Taking him to see Hungary play. Now that's what life's about. This is just 100%. A silly pastime. Yeah. Which helps my brain move around, and I meet a bunch of people. But that's it. It ain't life. It ain't life. It's not worth losing me rag about.
Oh, I love it. What a fantastic note to end on. Ben, it's been a pleasure chatting with you yet again. I can't wait for our next in-person meetup as well. I'm absolutely buzzing that we had this conversation. Before we sign off, do you have any final words you want to put out there?
Thank you, Sanjay. That's what I want to say. You put loads of work into this community. Thank you.
It's truly my pleasure, honestly. It's great having you part of many footy groups, chat groups. You've introduced me to a lot of fantastic people out there as well. I mean, you're part of our Discord as well, and I mean, you know how great a community that we're fostering as well. And honestly, it's seeing this constant engagement and the enthusiasm from people all over the world that is, fueling my efforts and my drive to just put out content, and like you said, just make friends, right? Meet new fantastic people. Honestly, it's been a fantastic journey so far, and I can't wait to see how far I'll go. So yeah, awesome listeners. That's it. Thanks for tuning in to yet another Inside Trax episode. Funny enough, our next episode is actually Manchester United with Andrew. So can't wait for that one. It's going to be an absolute rip-roar. I'm sure he's going to boast about his FA Cup victory, right? Off the back of this pod.
I'm going in person to watch the Shield with him.
There you go. Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be brilliant. I'm so excited for you. All right, listeners, we'll catch you on the next episode then.
Peace.